Some people will never feel at home in a crowd, not because something is wrong with them, but because something inside them works differently. And if you've ever sat in a room full of people laughing, talking, existing, and still felt completely, inexplicably alone, this video is about you. Not in a general way, not in the way that every psychology video says this could be you and means no one in particular, in a specific way, a quiet way, the kind of way that makes you pause and think, how does this channel know this about me? Because what I'm about to describe isn't a disorder. It isn't a flaw. It isn't something to fix. It's a pattern, a rare one. And if you recognize yourself in it, really recognize yourself, I want you to stay until the end. Because by the time this is over, you may understand yourself in a way that took you years to almost reach. Let me describe someone. They overthink almost everything, not because they're anxious, but because their mind doesn't switch off. It's always running, always questioning. They feel things deeply, almost too deeply. A song, a sentence, a look from a stranger, it lands inside them and stays there. They prefer one honest conversation over 20 shallow ones. Small talk feels like a costume they're forced to wear. They notice things other people miss, the shift in someone's tone, the tension in a room, the meaning behind what wasn't said. They need time alone, not to hide, but to come back to themselves. And sometimes they feel like they don't quite belong anywhere, like they're a little too much for some people and not enough for others. If that sounds familiar, keep watching, because you're not broken. You're not dramatic. You're not too sensitive. You're just wired differently. And there is a name for what you carry. Number 1. You reread conversations after they happen, not out of obsession, out of depth. Your mind replays interactions because you are genuinely invested in people. You wonder what you said, what they meant, what was left unspoken. Most people move on within seconds. You sit with it. Psychologists call this post-event processing, and it's common in people with high emotional intelligence and deep empathy. You process experiences more completely than most. That's not a flaw. That's thoroughness. Number 2. You find it difficult to be fake, even when it would make your life easier. In a room full of people performing, you can't. You physically cannot pretend to care about things you don't care about. Shallow conversations drain you, not because you're antisocial, but because your nervous system is calibrated for meaning. Anything less feels like wasted breath. This often starts in childhood. Children who grew up in environments where authenticity was punished, where they had to perform emotions or suppress them, sometimes develop a deep, almost allergic rejection of inauthenticity. It becomes a form of self-protection, and later, a form of identity. Number 3. You feel emotions before you can explain them. Something shifts inside you. Before you have words for it, you sense when something is off, when a relationship is dying, when a room is tense, when someone is lying, not with logic, but with your body. This is called somatic awareness, and it's rare. Most people live mostly in their heads. You live in your whole nervous system. The problem? When the feeling is strong and the words aren't there yet, people around you don't understand you, and sometimes you don't understand yourself. Number 4. You protect your energy like it is a limited resource because it is canceling plans, needing silence after social events, feeling physically exhausted after hours with people. This isn't weakness. It's not rudeness. It's the reality of a sensitive nervous system that absorbs more than average. You don't just experience a room, you absorb it. The emotions in it, the unspoken things, the energy of everyone present. That kind of perception is a gift, but it has a cost. And you've learned, sometimes painfully, to protect your energy. Because when it's gone, you have nothing left. Number 5. You've always felt slightly older than your age. As a child, you probably talked to adults more easily than to kids your age. You saw through things. You understood complexity too soon. Maybe you were called mature as a compliment that didn't quite feel like one. Because underneath it was a loss, a childhood spent carrying things that children shouldn't have to carry. This is called adultification, when a child takes on emotional responsibilities early, when they become the quiet observer, the one who reads the room, the one who keeps the peace. It makes you wise. but it also makes you tired in ways that are hard to explain. Number 6. You don't just want to be loved, you need to be understood, not admired. Not needed, understood. Compliments don't land the same way for you. "You're great" means less than "I see who you actually are." This is one of the most specific and least talked about traits of a deeply emotional person. The hunger isn't for attention, it's for recognition. To be seen clearly with all your contradictions and still accepted. When that doesn't happen, the loneliness is its own kind of grief. Here's what most people will never understand about you. You are not difficult. You are not too much. You are not overthinking it. You are operating at a depth that most conversations were never designed to reach. And here is the painful contradiction that lives inside you. You feel everything, but you've learned to show almost nothing, because somewhere along the way, you discovered that showing your full depth made people uncomfortable, so you became selective. You learned to edit yourself, to offer only the parts that were acceptable, manageable, safe, and over time, that gap between who you are inside and what you allow yourself to show becomes its own kind of loneliness. It's not that you don't trust people, it's that you've been trusted with too much of yourself, for too long, with almost no one to share it with. You've been described as hard to read, mysterious, distant, but the truth is the opposite. You are an open book, written in a language very few people take the time to learn. The wall isn't there because you don't want connection. The wall is there because real connection, for you, isn't casual. It's complete. It's everything or nothing. And everything is terrifying when you don't know if the other person can handle it. So, what do you do with this? First, stop treating your depth as a disorder. The world will sometimes try to tell you that you're too sensitive, too intense, too selective, too much. And the cruelest part is that you've probably started to believe it. But sensitivity is not fragility. It is perception. Intensity is not instability. It is caring. Selectiveness is not arrogance. It is self-respect. The problem was never that you feel too much. The problem was being surrounded by people who felt too little and calling it normal. Second, understand that your kind of mind is rare, not special in the way that inflates the ego, special in the way that comes with responsibility. You see things, you feel things, you carry things. That capacity can be a gift or it can become a wound, depending on whether you learn to use it consciously or let it use you. The people who change things, who create, who connect deeply, who build something real, they almost always have, exactly, the traits you just recognized in yourself, not in spite of them, because of them. And finally, give yourself permission to stop performing normalcy. You were never meant to fit perfectly into every room. Some rooms were never built for you. And that's not a failure, that's information. The right people, the ones who speak your language, who don't flinch at your depth, who actually want to know what's happening behind your eyes, they exist. But you won't find them by making yourself smaller. You find them by being quietly and without apology, exactly what you are. Complicated, perceptive, deeply feeling, and completely, undeniably not normal, which, as it turns out, is one of the most valuable things a person can be. You've carried this quietly for a long time. Maybe it's time to stop calling it a burden and start calling it what it is.